The space around the Void Nebula was always cold and dark. But today, something was different. Lee Taeho pressed his face against the small window of the salvaged ship, Stellar Wanderer, and stared at the massive shape floating in the distance. "Captain Dami, you need to see this," Taeho called out. His voice carried excitement that he tried to hide. After 3 years working as the ship's mechanic, he had learned not to get too excited about possible finds. Most of the time, they turned out to be worthless junk. Captain Yoon Dami walked over to the window. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind her came the first mate, a blue-skinned alien called Crix. His 4 arms moved nervously as he looked out into space. "What is that thing?" Dami whispered. The object floating before them was huge. It was easily 10 times bigger than their own ship. Strange crystals covered its dark metal surface like frozen lightning. Even from this distance, they could see a faint blue glow coming from inside it. "It looks old," Taeho said. "Really old. I have never seen anything like it in any of the ship databases." Crix made a clicking sound with his mouth. It was something he did when he was worried. "Ancient ships are dangerous, Captain. We should leave this place." But Dami was already moving toward the control room. "No way. Look at the size of that thing. If even half of it has working parts, we could retire rich." The Stellar Wanderer was not a big ship. It carried a crew of 8 people from different worlds. They made their living by finding old ships and taking anything valuable from them. It was hard work and sometimes dangerous, but it paid well enough. Taeho followed the captain to the control room. The other crew members were already there, staring at their screens with wide eyes. "I am reading massive energy signatures," said Yuki, the ship's scanner operator. She was young and always got excited about new discoveries. "Whatever is powering that ship is still working after who knows how many years. Any signs of life?" Dami asked. "Hard to tell. The crystal formations are blocking most of our scans, but I am detecting some kind of movement inside Crix's 4 arms, started moving faster." "Captain, I really think we should leave. Ancient ships often have security systems, or worse." "What could be worse than security systems?" Dami asked. "Things that eat people," Crix said simply. Taeho checked his tools and equipment. He had been a mechanic since he was 16 years old. There was nothing about engines, power systems, or ship repairs that he did not understand. If this ancient ship had working technology, he wanted to see it. "I vote we board it," he said. "Think about what we could learn from technology. That old? It might be completely different from anything we know." Dami smiled. "That is what I like to hear. Crix, get the boarding equipment ready. Everyone else, standard salvage protocol. We go in, look around, take what we can carry, and leave." It took 2 hours to get close enough to dock with the ancient ship. The crystals covering its surface seemed to pulse with their own light as they approached. When their ship finally connected with an airlock, everyone was quiet. "Atmosphere is breathable," Yuki reported. "Temperature is cold, but not dangerous. Gravity is about normal." Dami stood up and grabbed her equipment bag. "Remember, we stay together. No one goes off alone. If something seems wrong, we leave immediately." The airlock opened with a sound like breaking glass. Cold air rushed out, carrying with it a smell that none of them recognized. It was not bad, just different, like metal and flowers mixed together. The corridor beyond the airlock was huge. The ceiling was so high that their lights could not reach it. The walls were covered with the same crystals they had seen on the outside. Up close, the crystals looked almost alive. They pulsed with soft blue light in patterns that seemed to follow their movements. "This is incredible," Taeho whispered. He reached out to touch one of the crystals, but Crix grabbed his arm. "Do not touch anything yet," the alien warned. "We do not know what any of this does." They walked deeper into the ship. Their footsteps echoed in the vast space. Everything was built on a scale much larger than normal ships. The doorways were tall enough for giants. The corridors could have fit 3 ships the size of the Stellar Wanderer side by side. "What kind of beings built this place?" Yuki asked. They got their answer when they entered the first large room. Along the walls were dozens of crystal formations, each one as big as a small house. Inside each crystal, they could see the shape of something sleeping, something large, something with wings. "Dragons," Crix breathed. His voice was full of fear. "Those are Vorthok." the ancient dragons of the void. Taeho stared at the creatures in the crystals. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Their scales seemed to shimmer, even in sleep. Their wings were folded against bodies that were easily twice the size of their entire salvage ship. "I thought they were just stories," Dami said. "They are real," Crick said, "and they eat anything that moves. Captain, we need to leave right now." But Taeho was not listening. He was looking at the walls, at the patterns of lights and crystals. He was seeing technology beyond anything he had ever imagined. Power systems that had run for thousands of years without maintenance. Life support that kept these massive creatures alive in perfect stasis. "Look at this place," he said. "The engineering is amazing. These systems are more advanced than anything in the known galaxy." "I do not care how advanced it is," Crick said, his voice getting higher. "We need to leave before they wake up." As if his words had triggered something, one of the crystals began to glow brighter. The creature inside seemed to move slightly. "Too late," Crick screamed. "They are waking up. We have to go now." The crew ran toward the exit, but in their panic, something terrible happened. As they reached the airlock, Crick pushed past Taeho and hit the emergency seal button. "What are you doing, Taeho?" shouted as the airlock began to close. "Saving the ship," Crick replied. "The dragons will follow us, but they will be happy enough with just one meal." "You cannot leave me here," Taeho said, but the airlock was already sealed. Through the small window, he could see Captain Dami. She was staring at him with horror in her eyes. For a moment, he thought she would override the lock and let him back in, but she did not. The stellar wanderer detached from the ancient ship and flew away, leaving Taeho alone with the slowly awakening dragons behind him. The crystals were glowing, brighter. The ancient ship was coming back to life after thousands of years of sleep. And somewhere in the vast corridors, something very large was beginning to move. Taeho picked up his tool bag and walked back into the ship. If he was going to die, at least he could spend his last hours looking at the most incredible technology he had ever seen. He did not notice that his footsteps no longer echoed alone in the empty corridors. The silence in the ancient ship did not last long. As Taeho walked deeper into the corridors, the crystals around him began to pulse faster. The blue light was getting brighter with each step he took. The air itself seemed to vibrate with energy. Stopped in front of a wall panel covered with strange symbols. Even though he could not read them, his mechanic instincts told him these were system controls. The patterns of lights were familiar, like the heartbeat of a machine waking up after a long sleep. A deep rumbling sound came from somewhere behind him. Then another from his left. The dragons were stirring. Taeho knew he should be afraid. Any normal person would be running and screaming right now. But as he looked around at the incredible technology surrounding him, he felt something else. This ship was a masterpiece of engineering that had survived thousands of years in space. The life support systems were still working perfectly. The power grid was more advanced than anything humans had ever built. The first crystal formation began to crack. Long lines appeared across its surface, like lightning frozen in ice. The blue light inside grew so bright that Taeho had to shield his eyes. Then the crystal shattered completely, filling the air with sparkling dust. What emerged from the broken crystal made Taeho forget how to breathe. The dragon was magnificent. Its scales were deep black, with edges that gleamed like starlight. Its wings, even folded against its body, were huge. When it opened its eyes, they burned with an intelligence that was older than human civilization. This was Kale, though Taeho did not know the name yet. The dragon stretched its long neck and looked around the chamber. When its gaze fell on the small human standing among the broken crystal pieces, it tilted its head with curiosity. More crystals began to crack. Another dragon emerged, this one smaller, but more aggressive-looking. Her scales were silver blue, and her eyes held a fierce light. This was Nari, and she was already moving toward Taeho with hunting grace. The third crystal to break revealed a younger dragon with golden scales. Ben was curious about everything, especially the strange little creature that had somehow gotten aboard their ship. Taeho stood perfectly still as the three dragons surrounded him. He could feel their hot breath on his skin. Their eyes studied him like he was a puzzle they needed to solve. Kale spoke first. The words came out as deep, rumbling sounds that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Taeho could not understand the language, but the meaning was clear enough. "What are you?" And what are you doing here? I am human, Teho said, surprised by how calm his voice sounded. My name is Li Teho. My crew left me here. The dragons looked at each other. Mirai made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been hunger. She moved closer to Teho, her claws clicking on the metal floor. That was when the ship chose to remind everyone that it was very old and in need of repair. A warning sound filled the air. Red lights began flashing along the walls. The steady hum of the life support systems changed to an unhealthy wheezing noise. Teho immediately forgot about the dragons. His trained ears could hear exactly what was wrong. The atmospheric recyclers were failing. The power distribution was becoming unstable. If these systems crashed, everyone on the ship would die within hours. He ran to the nearest control panel and began examining the display. The symbols were alien, but the patterns of system failure were universal. Any mechanic worth his tools could read the signs. Your environmental controls are breaking down, he said, talking to himself more than the dragons. The primary recycler has a blockage. The backup system is overloaded. And this power coupling here is about to burn out completely. The dragons watched in amazement as this tiny creature began working on their ship. Teho pulled tools from his bag and started opening access panels. His hands moved with practiced speed as he traced power cables and checked system connections. Bin moved closer, fascinated by the human's behavior. In dragon culture, when faced with death warriors, fought, they did not start fixing things. Te-Ho found the first problem in a maintenance shaft, barely wide enough for him to crawl through. A piece of debris had blocked one of the main air recycling pipes. He pulled it free and immediately heard the system begin to work normally again. But that was just the beginning. The ship had been asleep for thousands of years, and many of its systems were on the edge of complete failure. Teho worked his way from one emergency to the next, explaining what he was doing as he went. This connection is corroded, he said, replacing a burned-out component, and this filter has not been changed in forever. No wonder the power is unstable. Kale watched the human work. Dragons were proud of their ancient technology, but they had to admit they did not understand how to maintain it. Their knowledge was about flying and fighting and magic, not about the small mechanical details that kept their ship working. When a particularly difficult repair required someone with small hands to reach into a tight space, Nari actually moved, closer to give Teho more light. She was still suspicious of him, but she could see that he was trying to save all of their lives. Young Bin was completely fascinated. He had never seen anyone work with such focus and skill. The humans seemed to understand their ship better than they did, even though he had never seen anything like it before. After 2 hours of non-stop work, Teho finally stepped back from the last repair. The warning lights stopped flashing. The life support systems returned to their steady, healthy hum. The ship was safe again. The dragons stared at him in silence. Then Kale spoke in his deep, rumbling voice. This time, somehow, Teho could understand the words. You saved us, the great dragon said. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. And because this ship is beautiful, I could not let it die. The ship's ancient AI system had been awakened by Teho's repairs. It was translating between the human and dragon languages, making communication possible for the first time. Stepped forward. Her earlier aggression was gone, replaced by something that might have been respect. You are not food, she said. You are something else. I am a mechanic, Teho said simply. I fix things. Bin spoke for the first time, his young voice full of excitement. Can you teach me? I want to learn how to fix things too. Kale looked at his companions, then back at the strange human who had saved their lives. Li Teho, he said carefully, you are welcome on this ship. We have much to learn from each other. And that was how the first friendship between humans and dragons began. Not with grand speeches or formal treaties, but with a mechanic doing his job, and dragons learning that sometimes the greatest strength comes from knowing how to repair what is broken. Outside the ship, space was still cold and empty. But inside, something new was beginning, something that would change the galaxy forever. The next few days passed in a strange kind of peace. Teho spent his time exploring the dragon ship and learning about its incredible technology. The dragons watched him work with growing fascination and respect. The ship's AI, which called itself Echo, helped them communicate. It was ancient but friendly, happy to have new voices to talk to after thousands of years of silence. "Tell me about your people," Kale asked one morning as Teho worked on upgrading the ship's sensor array. The great dragon lay nearby, his massive head resting on his front claws. "Humans are builders and fixers," Teho said, carefully connecting new wires. "We see something broken and we want to make it work again. We see something good and we want to make it better." That is not what the stories say. She was practicing combat moves, her silver-blue scales catching the light as she moved. "The stories say humans are weak and scared of everything. Some are," Teho admitted, "but some are brave, some are smart, some are kind. We are all different, just like dragons probably are." Ben poked his golden head over Teho's shoulder. "Can you teach me to do that? Fix sensors?" "Sure, but first you need to understand how they work." Teho spent the next hour explaining sensor technology to the young dragon. Ben was a quick learner and asked good questions. Soon he was helping with the repairs, his smaller claws perfect for handling delicate components. "Your teaching methods are strange," Nari said, but she was listening to dragons learn by watching and copying. "You explain the reasons behind everything. Understanding is important," Teho said. "If you know why something works, you can fix it when it breaks. If you only know how to copy what others do, you are helpless when something new happens." Echo's voice came from the walls around them. "The human speaks wisdom. This is why their species advances so quickly, despite their short lives." Kale raised his great head. "Short lives? Humans live maybe 100 years, Echo explained. "Dragons live for thousands, but in their short time, humans learn and build, and create at incredible speed." This news made all three dragons quiet for a moment. They had not realized that their new friend would have such a brief existence compared to theirs. "Then we must make the most of our time together," Kale said finally. The peaceful learning was interrupted on the fourth day when Echo's warning systems activated. "Multiple ships approaching," the AI announced. "Configuration matches pirate vessels. They are armed and moving to attack positions." Through the ship's windows, they could see 5 smaller ships surrounding them. Each one bristled with weapons and had the rough, patched appearance of vessels used by space pirates. "They want our ship," Nari snarled. "They see something old and valuable and think they can just take it." "Can we fight them?" Teho asked. "This ship has weapons," Kale said, "but they have not been used in thousands of years. We do not know if they still work." "Then we need to find out quickly," Teho said, running toward the ship's weapon control room. The pirate ships opened fire. Energy beams struck the dragon ship's hull, making the whole vessel shake. But the ancient armor held strong. "Return. Fire," Echo announced, but nothing happened. "Weapon systems are not responding. There appears to be a power coupling failure in the main battery." "I can fix that," Teho said, already grabbing his tools. "It is too dangerous," Kale protested. "The coupling is in the outer hull section. If the pirates hit that area while you are working, then you better make sure they do not hit it," Teho said, and ran toward the maintenance shafts. The weapon coupling was located in a small chamber near the ship's main gun. As Teho worked to repair the damaged connections, the ship shook. Around him, with each pirate attack, sparks flew from damaged panels and the air filled with smoke. Meanwhile, the dragons had their own part to play. Even though the main weapons were not working, the ship had other defenses. Kale took control of the navigation systems and began using the ship's massive size as a weapon. Ramming into the smaller pirate vessels, Nara operated the shield generators, redirecting power to protect the sections where Teho was working. Her warrior instincts helped her predict where the next attacks would come from. Ben worked as a messenger, flying through the ship's corridors to carry information between his friends. His young eyes were sharp, and he could spot problems before they became dangerous. Power coupling restored. Teho called out over the ship's communication system. "Try the weapons now." The dragon ship's main gun powered up for the first time in millennia. When it fired, the energy beam was so powerful that it completely destroyed the nearest pirate ship in a single shot. "Impressive," Nari said with satisfaction. "But there are still 4 more." "Not for long," Kale replied. The great dragon had learned to use the ship's advanced targeting systems. Working together with Echo, he could hit targets with incredible accuracy. The battle was over in minutes. 2 pirate ships were destroyed, One was crippled and drifting, and the remaining two fled into deep space. As the excitement died down, the four friends gathered in the main chamber to check on each other. "That was amazing," Ben said, his eyes bright with excitement. "We fought like a real crew." "We are a real crew," Tejo said. "You flew those message runs perfectly. And Nari, your shield work kept us all alive." Nari tried to look modest, but Tejo could see she was pleased with the praise. "Your repair work was impressive too, human. I did not think anyone could fix a power coupling that quickly." "I had good protection," Tejo said, "and good teammates." Kale nodded slowly. "We work well together, dragons and human, old wisdom and new ideas." "There is something else," Echo said. "I detected transmission signals from the pirate ships before. They attacked. They were not just random raiders. Someone sent them here specifically to find this ship." "Who would do that?" Ben asked. "Someone who knows about dragons," Nari said grimly. "Someone who wants our technology." "Then they will send more ships," Kale said. This attack was just the beginning. Tejo sat down on a piece of machinery and thought for a moment. "Maybe it is time to stop hiding," he said finally. "You dragons have been asleep for thousands of years. The galaxy has changed. Maybe it is time to wake up and join it again." "Join it?" How, Kale asked. "By showing everyone that dragons are not monsters from old stories, by proving that different species can work together, by teaching and learning from each other. The galaxy feared us once," Nari said. "Why would they welcome us now? Because—" "You will not be alone," Tejo said. "You will have human friends. And maybe other friends too. The universe is big enough for everyone." Echo's voice was thoughtful. "The human has wisdom. Isolation brought us nothing but long sleep and forgotten dreams. Perhaps it is time for a new beginning." Kale looked at his companions, then at the small human, who had become so important to all of them. "If we do this, there will be dangers. Not everyone will welcome dragons back to the galaxy." "Good thing we know how to fight," Nari said with a fierce smile. "And good thing we know how to fix things when they break," Tejo added. "Then it is decided," Kale said. "We will face the future together. Dragons and human, as partners and friends." Outside, the ship, the stars, shone with infinite possibility. Their small group had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, and they were ready to show everyone that the most unlikely friendships could be the strongest of all. 2 weeks after the pirate attack, Tejo stood in the dragon ship's main command center, watching Echo trace signals through space. The ancient AI had been working day and night to track down the stellar wanderer. "Found them," Echo announced. "Your former crew is at Kepler Station in the Outer Rim territories." Kale lifted his massive head from where he had been resting. "The trading station. That is a dangerous place for honest traders." "Maybe they are not so honest anymore," Nari said. She had been practicing with the ship's weapon systems, preparing for whatever they might find. Tejo studied the information. On the screen, Kepler Station was known throughout the galaxy as a place where people went when they did not want to be found. Pirates, smugglers, and criminals of all kinds used it as a safe harbor. Why would Captain Dami go there? He wondered. Aloud, "Perhaps she had no choice," Echo said. "I am detecting distress signals from the area. Many ships have been attacked near Kepler Station in recent weeks." Ben flew over to join the conversation. The young dragon had grown noticeably in the past. Few weeks his golden scales brighter and his wings stronger. "Are we going to rescue them?" "I do not know," Tejo said honestly. "They left me to die. Maybe I should let them handle their own problems." "But you are not that kind of person," Kale said gently. "I have watched you work. You fix things that are broken, even when no one asks you to. It is who you are." Nari snorted. "They do not deserve his help. Betrayers should face the consequences of their actions." "Maybe," Tejo said. "But what if there are innocent people on their ship? What if they are in real danger?" "Then we find out what is happening first," Kale decided. Echo set course for Kepler Station, but we approached carefully. The journey to Kepler Station took 3 days. During that time, Echo intercepted more distress signals and emergency transmissions. Something big was happening in the Outer Rim, and it was getting worse. When they arrived at Kepler Station, they found chaos. The massive trading post was under siege by a fleet of pirate ships, but these were not ordinary pirates. Their ships were bigger and better armed than anything Taeho had ever seen. "These are the same people who attacked us," Nari said, studying the enemy fleet. "I recognize their ship designs. But there are so many more of them," Ben whispered. "At least 50 ships." Echo's sensors detected the Stellar Wanderer docked at the station. "Your former crew is trapped inside," the AI reported. "The station's shields are failing. The pirates will break through within hours." Taeho watched the battle raging around the station. He could see people fighting and dying, trying to defend their temporary home. Many of them were criminals and outcasts, but they were still people. "We have to help," he said finally. "All of them?" Kale asked. "Or just your former crew?" "All of them. No one deserves to be slaughtered like this." Nari looked at him with something that might have been admiration. "You really are different from other species. Most beings would only care about their own kind." "Maybe that is why most species spend so much time fighting each other," Taeho replied. They spent an hour planning their attack. The dragon ship was powerful, but 50 enemy vessels were too many to fight directly. They needed a different approach. "The pirates are focused on breaking the station's shields," Kale observed. "They are not expecting an attack from behind." "Can disable their command ship," Echo said. "If we can get close enough, I can upload a virus into their computer systems, and I can create a distraction," Nari added. "Something big enough to give the station time to evacuate their people." "What about me?" Ben asked. "You are our secret weapon," Taeho said with a smile. "Small, fast, and unexpected, you can get into places the rest of us cannot reach." The battle began at sunset, Kepler station time. The dragon ship approached the pirate fleet from below, using the station's bulk to hide their approach. When they were close enough, Ben flew out through a cargo hatch, carrying a small device that Taeho had built. The young dragon was invisible against the black of space. He flew directly to the pirates' command ship and attached Taeho's device to their main communication array. The device looked like a simple repair patch, but it was actually a gateway for Echo's virus. Meanwhile, Kale piloted their ship into the middle of the pirate formation. The ancient dragon vessel was so much larger than the pirate ships that at first they thought it was a space station that had somehow moved. When the dragon ship opened fire, the pirates realized their mistake, but by then it was too late. Echo's virus had already infected their command systems, causing chaos throughout their fleet. Nayar operated the weapons with deadly efficiency. Each shot from the dragon ship's ancient guns destroyed or crippled an enemy vessel. The pirates tried to return fire, but their targeting systems were failing thanks to Echo's cyber attack. The battle turned quickly. The pirates, faced with an enemy they could not understand or defeat, began to retreat. Within an hour, the surviving ships were fleeing into deep space. Kepler station was saved, but the cost had been high. Many ships were damaged, and many people were hurt. The station's emergency teams worked frantically to help the wounded and repair critical systems. Taeho and the dragons docked at the station to offer assistance. As they walked through the damaged corridors, people stared at them in amazement. Few beings in the galaxy had ever seen a dragon, let alone 3 of them walking peacefully alongside a human. They found the Stellar Wanderer in Docking Bay 12. The ship was damaged but intact. Captain Dami was supervising repairs when she looked up and saw Taeho approaching. Her face went through several emotions at once: surprise, guilt, fear, and finally shame. "Taeho," she said quietly, "you are alive?" "No thanks to you," Nari growled, but Taeho held up a hand to stop her. "I am alive because I made new friends," he said simply. "Friends who do not abandon each other when things get dangerous." Dami looked at the 3 dragons standing. Behind Taeho, "These are the creatures from the ancient ship, but they are supposed to be monsters." "They are my family now," Taeho said, "and they just saved your life, along with everyone else on this station." Crix, the blue-skinned first mate who had sealed the airlock, appeared from inside the ship. When he saw the dragons, his 4 arms began shaking with fear. "Please," he begged, "do not eat us. We are sorry. We were scared." "We do not eat people," Kael said, his deep voice making the entire docking bay vibrate. "We are not the monsters from your old stories." Dami stepped forward, her head held high despite her obvious shame. "Taeho, I owe you an apology. What we did was wrong, cowardly and wrong." If there is any way we can make up for it, there is, Teho said. Help us show the galaxy that different species can work together. Help us prove that cooperation is stronger than fear. Dami looked at her crew, then back at Teho and his dragon friends. How? Join us, Kale said. Be part of something new. Something better. And in the damaged docking bay of a criminal space station, surrounded by the wreckage of battle, the first real alliance between humans and dragons was born. The next few weeks were busy ones for everyone involved. Kepler Station slowly repaired itself, and word of the dragon ship spread throughout the galaxy. Some people were excited by the news, others were terrified. Captain Dami and her crew worked, hard to prove they could be trusted again. They helped with station repairs and assisted other ships that had been damaged in the pirate attack. But Teho could see the guilt still eating at them. You saved our lives, Dami said one evening, as they sat in the station's main cantina. After what we did to you, you still came back to help us. I do not understand why. Because that is what friends do, Teho said simply. And because holding on to anger only hurts everyone. Kale, who was too large to fit inside the cantina, spoke through the ship's communication system. In dragon culture, betrayal is the worst possible crime, but forgiveness is the greatest possible virtue. We have a lot to learn from both of your species. Dami admitted. Echo had been busy too, analyzing data from the pirate ships they had captured or destroyed. What the AI found was disturbing. The pirates were not working alone, Echo announced during one of their daily briefings. They are part of a larger organization. Someone has been hunting dragon ships for centuries, stealing our technology and selling it to the highest bidder. Who would do such a thing? Ben asked. The young dragon had grown even more in recent weeks, and his voice was deeper now. Someone with no honor, Nari snarled. Someone who sees dragons only as sources of profit. We need to find out who is behind this, Kale said, and we need to stop them before they find other sleeping dragons. Echo had traced the pirates' communications to a corporate headquarters in the core worlds. The company was called Universal Salvage and Recovery, and they claimed to be legitimate archaeologists. But their real business was hunting down ancient ships and stripping them of valuable technology. They have been doing this for over 200 years, Echo reported. I found records of at least 12 dragon ships that have been discovered and looted. 12 ships, Kale said quietly. That means hundreds of my people. The anger in the great dragon's voice made everyone in the room uncomfortable. Even Teho, who knew Kale well by now, had never heard such fury from his friend. We will stop them, Nari promised. We will make them pay for what they have done. Not through revenge, Teho said carefully. Through justice. We expose what they have been doing. We make sure the galaxy knows the truth. How do we do that? Dami asked. We need proof, Echo said. Documentation of their crimes. Evidence. That cannot be denied or explained away. Then we need to get into their headquarters, Teho said. That is impossible, Crix protested. The blue-skinned alien had been trying to make up for his earlier cowardice by being extra helpful. Universal Salvage has offices on Corinth Prime. It is one of the most heavily defended worlds in the core systems. Not impossible, Ben said thoughtfully, just difficult. Over the next several days, they planned what Echo called the most complex infiltration mission in galactic history. It would require all of their skills and perfect timing. The plan was ambitious. Dami and her crew would approach Universal Salvage as potential clients, claiming to have information about newly discovered ancient ships. This would get them into the building legally. Meanwhile, Teho and Bin would sneak into the company's computer systems through the building's maintenance network. Teho's small size and mechanical skills, combined with Bin's natural stealth abilities, would allow them to access areas that normal security could not protect. Kale and Nari would wait in orbit, ready to extract everyone if things went wrong. The dragon ship's advanced cloaking systems would keep it hidden from planetary defense scanners. The mission began on a Tuesday morning, Corinth, prime time. Dami and her crew entered the Universal Salvage building through the main entrance. Dressed as successful traders, they carried fake documentation about a lost fleet they had supposedly discovered at the same time. Teho and Ben entered through a service tunnel that connected to the building's lower levels. Teho had studied the building's blueprints for weeks, memorizing every corridor and maintenance shaft. Remember, he whispered to Ben as they crawled through an air vent, We are looking for the executive data core. That is where they will keep the real records. What if we get caught? Ben asked. Then we run very fast and hope Kale and Nari can reach us in time. They found the executive level's main computer room after 2 hours of careful searching. Tejo connected his portable equipment to the central data system, while Ben kept watch at the door. What they found in the company's files was worse than they had imagined. Universal Salvage had not just been stealing dragon technology. They had been deliberately hunting down sleeping dragons and killing them to prevent them from ever awakening. They knew, Tejo whispered as he copied the files. They knew that dragons were not monsters. They knew they were intelligent, peaceful beings, and they killed them anyway. Why? Ben asked, his young voice full of pain. Because live dragons could fight back. Dead dragons could not. The files also revealed something else. Universal Salvage was planning a major operation. They had detected signals from 3 more dragon ships, including one that was close to awakening naturally. The company was assembling a fleet to attack all 3 ships simultaneously. We have to warn them, Ben said. First, we have to get out of here, Tejo replied, packing up his equipment. Then we warn everyone. But as they prepared to leave, alarms began sounding throughout the building. Security guards were running through the corridors, sealing all exits. Domi's team has been discovered. Echo's voice came through their communicators. Building security is moving to arrest them. What do we do? Ben asked. We change the plan, Tejo said. Instead of sneaking out, we make some noise. Tejo had spent his entire adult life fixing things, but he had also learned how to break them when necessary. He began systematically destroying Universal Salvage's computer systems, uploading viruses and corrupting data files at the same time. He sent all the evidence they had gathered to news organizations throughout the galaxy. By the time security reached the computer room, the truth about Universal Salvage was already spreading across thousands of worlds. Ben used his size and speed to create chaos throughout the building, triggering fire alarms and emergency systems. In the confusion, Dami and her crew managed to escape to the roof. That was where Kale and Nari found them. The dragon ship Doklok directly above the Universal Salvage building. The massive vessel's appearance caused panic throughout the capital city, but it also made a powerful statement. Dragons were back in the galaxy, and they were not hiding anymore as they flew away from Corinth Prime. They watched news reports flooding the galactic communication networks. The evidence they had stolen was causing outrage throughout civilized space. Universal Salvage's stock price collapsed within hours, and government investigators were already moving to shut down their operations. We did it, Dami said, still amazed by what they had accomplished. We actually did it. We did it together, Tejo corrected. Humans and dragons working as a team. What happens now? Ben asked. Kale's deep voice was thoughtful. Now we find the other sleeping dragons and wake them properly. We make sure no one else dies alone in the dark. And we show the galaxy that dragons and humans can build something better together, Nari added, as their ship flew toward the stars. Carrying the most unlikely crew in galactic history, they knew their real adventure was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the Universal Salvage incident, and the galaxy was a very different place. The news that dragons were real, intelligent, and peaceful had changed everything. Some worlds welcomed the ancient beings with curiosity and respect. Others remained fearful and suspicious. Tejo stood on the observation deck of the newly renamed ship dragons, Hope, and watched the sunrise over New Terra. Humanity's newest colony world, the ship had been modified extensively over the past months, with sections designed for both human and dragon crew members. Still hard to believe sometimes, said Captain Dami as she joined him at the window. She wore the uniform of the Galactic Council's new Interspecies Cooperation Division. A year ago, I was just a salvage captain trying to make enough money to retire. Now I am commanding the first official human-dragon diplomatic vessel. Life has a way of surprising us, Tejo replied. He wore the same work clothes he had always preferred. But now they carried the insignia of Chief Engineer for Interspecies Technical Exchange. Kale's voice came through the ship's communication system. Are you ready for the ceremony, my friends? The New Terra government is expecting us in 1 hour. Today they would be opening the galaxy's first Joint Species Engineering Academy. Students from dozens of different worlds would come here to learn from both human and dragon teachers. Tejo would be running the practical engineering courses, while Nari had designed the Advanced Combat Systems program. Ben, now fully grown and nearly as large as Kale, had become something of a celebrity throughout the galaxy. The young dragon traveled from world to world, giving speeches about cooperation and understanding. His enthusiasm and genuine kindness had won over many beings who had initially feared dragons. "How many sleeping ships have we found now?" Dami asked. 17, Teho said, "and we have successfully awakened dragons from 12 of them. The other 5 ships were too damaged to save, but we gave their occupants proper funeral rites." Each awakening had been different. Some dragons, like Kale's group, had been curious and willing to join the modern galaxy. Others had been angry about the centuries of sleep and the loss of their civilization. A few had chosen to return to stasis, preferring to wait for a future they might understand better. But all of them had been grateful to Teho and his friends for giving them the choice. "Dragon ship approaching," Echo announced. The ancient AI had been upgraded with modern technology, giving it access to the galaxy's communication networks. It had become fascinated by social media and news reports, often sharing interesting stories with the crew. Through the window, they could see a magnificent vessel approaching New Terra. This was the Starflame, commanded by a dragon named Haywan. One of the first to be awakened after Kale's group, she had quickly become a leader among her people, organizing the newly awakened dragons into a loose confederation. "Haywan always travels in style," Dami commented, as the Starflame performed an elaborate aerial dance before landing. Dragon pilots loved to show off their flying skills. The ceremony that afternoon was attended by representatives from over 40 different worlds. Humans, dragons, and dozens of other species gathered to celebrate the opening of the academy. Found himself standing at a podium looking out at hundreds of faces. A year ago, the idea of giving a speech to such an important gathering would have terrified him. But now, after everything he had experienced, it felt natural. "When I was abandoned on that ancient dragon ship," he began, "I thought my life was over. I was alone, scared, and certain I was going to die. But instead, I found family, I found purpose, and I learned that the universe is full of possibilities we never imagine." The crowd listened intently as he continued. "Dragons and humans are very different species. We have different strengths, different ways of thinking, different approaches to problems. But when we work together, we can accomplish things that neither of us could do alone." He gestured toward where Kale, Nari, and Bin stood with the other. "Dragon representatives, these beings could have killed me on that first day. Instead, they chose to trust me. They chose to see potential instead of threat. That choice changed all of our lives. The academy we are opening today is not just about teaching technical skills. It is about teaching understanding. It is about proving that cooperation is always stronger than fear." The applause was thunderous. Humans clapped, dragons roared their approval, and other species made their own sounds of celebration. After the ceremony, Teho found himself in the academy's main workshop, surrounded by the first class of students. They were a mixed group, young beings from many different worlds, all eager to learn. Professor Teho asked a young human student named Ginwu, "Is it true that you fixed a dragon ship with just basic tools?" "Tools are just tools," Teho replied. "What matters is understanding how things work and being willing to try new approaches. Dragons taught me that elegant solutions are often better than complex ones. Humans taught dragons that sometimes simple fixes work better than ancient magic." A dragon student named Soyoung raised her head. "My grandmother says humans are too impatient, always rushing to fix things before understanding them properly." "Sometimes that is true," Teho admitted, "but sometimes waiting too long means missing the chance to help. The key is knowing when to think and when to act." Ben poked his golden head through the workshop's large door. "Are you telling them about the time you repaired the hyperdrive with kitchen utensils?" The students laughed as Teho groaned. "That was supposed to be a secret." "Nothing stays secret when you travel with dragons," Nari said, appearing behind Ben. "We talk too much." As the day ended, Teho walked through the academy grounds with his friends. The buildings were designed to accommodate beings of all sizes, with corridors wide enough for dragons and workspaces that could be adjusted for different species. "What do you think?" he asked Kale. "Will this work?" "It is working already," the great dragon replied. "Look around you, humans and dragons learning together. other species joining in, fear turning into curiosity. There will still be problems, Nari said practically. Not everyone in the galaxy is ready to accept dragons. Some humans still see us as monsters. Some dragons still think humans are primitive. But every day there are fewer of them, been pointed out. Every student who graduates from this academy goes home and teaches others. Every problem we solve together proves that cooperation works. Echo's voice came from speakers hidden throughout. The grounds, incoming priority message from the Galactic Council. They want to discuss funding for additional academies on 12 more worlds. 12 more, Demi said with amazement. When this started, I thought we would be lucky to get one. People learn fast when they see results, Tejo said, and the results speak for themselves. Dragon technology combined with human engineering is advancing science at an incredible rate. Medical breakthroughs, better starships, improved communication systems. Everyone benefits. As the twin suns of New Terra set behind the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant colors, the friends stood together on the Academy's main terrace. Around them, students from a dozen different species were working on projects, their excited voices mixing in a symphony of cooperation. So what happens next? Ben asked. We keep building, Kael said. Keep teaching, keep proving that different species can create something better together. And we keep exploring, Nari added. There are still sleeping dragons out there, still ancient mysteries to uncover, still new friendships to make. The galaxy is bigger than any of us imagined, Tejo said. Full of species we have never met, technologies we have never seen, problems we have never solved. But now we know we do not have to face any of it alone. Echo's cheerful voice joined the conversation. According to my calculations, if current trends continue, there will be integrated human-dragon communities on over 100 worlds within the next decade. 100 worlds, Dami mused. All because a mechanic got left behind on an ancient ship. All because that mechanic chose to fix things instead of breaking them, Kael corrected gently. All because dragons chose trust over fear, Tejo added. All because friends stick together. Been finished, as the stars appeared in the darkening sky. They made their plans for tomorrow. There were 3 more sleeping dragon ships to investigate. A new class of students arriving next week, and invitations to establish academies on worlds they had never visited. The small group that had started as enemies had become family. The unlikely alliance had become a galactic movement, and the future, once so uncertain and frightening, now blazed with infinite possibility in the workshops below. Human and dragon students worked side by side, building tomorrow's miracles. With today's friendship, and somewhere among the stars, other sleeping dragons waited to be welcomed home to a galaxy that was finally ready to embrace them. The adventure was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning.